Hello and welcome to tonight's show.
Hello and welcome to episode 168 of On the Bench, the podcast for scale modelers, by scale modelers, all about scale models. And this episode is a bonus episode with some very, very, very special guests. Of course, I've got Ian here joining me.
Yeah, of course. What else would I be doing?
And we have two very special guests to talk about our topic today, which is Warhammer 40k. I have with me Nate. Hello, Nate.
G'day, Dave. Nice to be here.
Thank you. I'm so pleased you're here. And we have April.
Hello, hello.
Oh, a little bit quiet there now, so you can talk up a little bit more.
Sorry.
That's all right. The really cool thing about this is because it's my podcast, I can do stuff like this because Nate is actually my youngest son, and April is his newly minted wife. 2 weeks ago, the wedding was.
Yeah, congratulations,
Something like
guys.
Yep.
Thank
So I've got a
Thank
lovely
you.
new daughter-in-law, and
Who can paint better than you can?
yes, I know.
Love it.
So Warhammer 40k, Nate and April are both right down the rabbit hole with this sort of stuff, and really enjoy painting and building, and sometimes wargaming, I guess.
Yes, definitely.
But before we get too deep into it, I guess we should really talk about what Warhammer 40k is, shouldn't we? So,
For those who have been living under a rock for the past 30, 40 years.
well, how about we consult the Oracle? And the Oracle says that Warhammer 40k is a miniature war game produced by Games Workshop, being the most popular miniature war game in the world, allegedly.
It is.
It is particularly popular in the United Kingdom, although I'd argue that I think it's popular all around the world, actually. And that first rulebook was published back in September 1987 with the 10th and current edition, which was released in 2023. So Warhammer 40k is set in the distant future where stagnant human civilization is beset by hostile aliens and supernatural creatures. The models in the game are a mixture of humans, aliens, supernatural monsters, wielding futuristic weaponry and supernatural powers. The fictional setting of the game has been developed through a large body of novels published by Black Library, which is Games Workshop's publishing division. Warhammer 40,000 originally took its name from Warhammer Fantasy Battle, which is a medieval fantasy game which is also produced by Games Workshop. Warhammer 40k was initially conceived as a science fiction counterpart to Warhammer Fantasy, and while they're not connected to each other in a shared universe, their settings share similar themes and tropes. And of course, Warhammer 40k also spawned a large amount of spin-off media. These also include board games such as Space Hulk, which is about combat in the narrow corridors of a derelict spacecraft,
Yep.
and Battlefleet Gothic, which simulates spaceship combat. Video game spin-off such as Dawn of War series have also been released.
Yes.
So, at its absolute core, it was started as a tabletop sort of game, miniature game, but it's sort of morphed into being something that people just buy and build and paint because it's quite enjoyable, and the whole themes and characters are really interesting and exciting.
Yeah. It's it definitely has, and it's, well, basically they were the ones that coined the term grimdark,
Yes.
meaning that the future is very grim and dark.
And there is only war.
Yes, that is right.
The cool thing about it is it's something that we as, and I'll say traditional modelers like aircraft, ship, tank builders type thing, you can take your kids along and get them into the hobby in an area that interests them, and or indeed even your grandkids, you can sort of take them along. And it's something like a shared passion you can do.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, Nate, you started, how old were you when you first introduced to it? Or when I introduced you to it?
I reckon I was at least 7
There you go.
when you first bought me a pack of orcs to build. And you played the game smart. You didn't get me anything that needed to be painted perfectly. You said, go get some cardboard boxes out of the trash and make yourself some terrain from it, and it worked out well.
And you've been hooked ever since.
Yeah, I have. And by the way, gentlemen, I'm not letting you off the hook.
Oh.
I've been listening to your podcast for a very long time, and the amount of times you've paid out miniature painting and tabletop. I'm glad we can glad we can sit down and focus on it today.
Well, it's not that we've really paid out. I mean, because it's interesting because any sort of tabletop gaming requires a model and requires painting. So it's essentially the same, except you take it to the next degree, really, don't you?
You get to play with it.
Yeah, you do. You don't sort of get running around like Julian does going with his aircraft.
With his aeroplanes.
Yeah, because Julie's not here, so I can pay out on him too.
Yes.
So it's got the extra dimension to it as well. And there's something satisfying about building like a complete army and sort of having it there to look at, whereas, traditional models might build 1 or 2 tanks or something like that.
Yeah, I'll let you know when I finish an army.
Oh, you haven't finished one yet?
Oh, there's just so many. Yeah, buy yourself a new box, jump from one project to the next, and before you know it, you've got 4 or 5 on the go and nothing complete.
So let's step through the sort of major sort of, what would you call them? Races, I guess?
Factions.
Factions, okay. So what have we got? Let's have a look.
First up, you got your Space Marines.
Well, Space Marines, yes, they're one.
Yep, so you've got 4 main categories that you really want to look at if you're choosing an army in Warhammer 40,000.
Yep.
The Space Marines, which are all the different legions of your main combat forces, your fighting Marines. Then you've got the Imperium at large, which is other armies that fall under that category. So things like your Sisters of Battle, which is the militant arm of the ecclesiarchy, the church.
Yep.
And you've also got things like the Imperial Guard, which are the Astra Militarum. So they're regular everyday people who aren't genetic superhuman warriors in power armor.
Yes, life expectancy of 3 minutes.
Yep. And then you've, of course, got the other sides too. So you've got your Xenos, so your alien races, which come in a number of varied different forms. You've got
orcs,
space orcs,
Eldari,
and
what are they called? Drakari now?
Drakari,
yeah, because they used to be called Dark Elves or something like that.
Yeah,
but
same
now
thing.
they've changed it.
Yeah, you've got to have a fancy name for everything these days.
Necrons.
I do like the Necrons.
Tyranids.
Yep.
Which I've always thought Tyranids were the fun painting ones because you can just go bananas whatever colours you want.
Oh, you should see my my collection at home.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about Tyranid, I mean, let's give a brief description about each one. So Tyranid is like
Tyranids basically
a xenomorph alien bugs.
Yeah, cross between was that
Starship Troopers?
Starship Troopers sort of thing, yeah. And Eldari, well, they're just space elves.
Yes.
And Drakari, they're the space
the
dark elves.
Yeah.
Necrons, well, they're just like, I presume, Egyptian robot mummies.
Yeah. I think Egyptian-themed Terminators. They've got an interesting story.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
What else you got?
And then if we're jumping away
did
from...
we mention orcs?
We did.
Of course, yes. The orcs are the fun ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they all talk with a Cockney accent for some reason.
Here we go, here we go.
Here we go, boys. Here we go, boys.
Stupid oomies.
Got to get them beaky boys.
Yeah, the beaky boys, yes.
Yeah. It's not a social commentary at all about the region where Warhammer first started.
But the thing I liked, because I played the orcs a few times, and the thing I realised about the orcs is sometimes you need to have a bucket for your dice.
Yeah, they got a lot of extra shots.
Because you got that many figures.
Just outside of the actual modelling section of the game, when it comes down to playing and being competitive, you've got 2 kinds of players. You've got Warhammer 40,000 players and you have orc players.
Oh, right, okay.
You'll never see anyone having more fun
than an orc player.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there's one we forgot. Tau.
Space Communists.
They're one of the new ones.
Space Communists?
Space Communists.
For the greater good.
Yeah.
But they do practice humane ethics and encourage scientific progress.
It's all humane if the
and they've got great
authority
weaponry.
tells you.
Well, that's true too, I guess. All right. Leagues of
Votan.
What, Space Dwarves?
Yeah, they're the
Basically.
the reintroduction of the squats.
Yes,
Yep.
which were everyone I know in the gaming people were huge on getting them back.
Mm.
Now, besides that, isn't there another offshoot of it too? But it's not like set in the 40k universe.
Well, we haven't moved away from 40k just
Oh,
yet.
okay.
So
Right.
we've covered the Space Marine,
Yes.
overarching faction, the
Yep.
armies of the Imperium, and the Xenos, and then we've got I would argue at least 50% of the game, which is Chaos.
Yes.
Oh, of course, yes, the chaos.
The Space Marines that fell to the dark side.
That follow one of the 4 different Chaos gods.
Not all.
So, well, they don't all. No.
Not all.
No.
Night Lords don't.
No, well,
So, for the listeners who perhaps don't sort of understand or have ever sort of touched this, what is the chaos side of things?
Well, they're like Lovecraftian gods, aren't they, when you think about it?
sort of. They're
You've got four factions.
Yes. So you've got Khorne, which is the god of war. I'm going to butcher this for those listening, by the way. My understanding of chaos is pretty limited. So you've got Khorne, who's like the god of war. He likes skulls. He likes blood.
Skull for the blood. Was it skulls
Blood for the blood god. Skulls for the skull throne.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then you've got Grandfather Nurgle, who accepts all, and he's all about rot and decay and putrefaction. He's actually got a pretty interesting message if you stop to read the pamphlets.
Right.
Then you've got Tzeentch, who is the god of change and magic and trickery and deceit and all those good things. Lots of bird motifs in his factions. A little bit of Egyptian too.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final god is Slaanesh, the great pleasure, art, and pain deity. We're not really sure what Slaanesh is. Guy, girl, doesn't really matter. It's anything to excess.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And they were brought about by the downfall of the Eldari.
Yeah. So basically, there was a giant space orgy.
Oh,
and,
basically, yes.
So for those who aren't familiar, there is a concept called the warp in Warhammer. Which is almost like a sub-dimension. It's more or less a hell dimension or a chaos dimension. And the warp is heavily linked with psychic energy. And I do believe that it was because of a collection of Eldar on their home planet seeking excess to finally feel something again. A huge, massive orgy ended up birthing the god or goddess of pleasure and pain.
And this is a children's game, a kids' game.
Yeah.
Well, young adults play it.
Yeah. They've toned the figures down.
Okay.
I remember when
Okay.
years ago with especially the daemonettes, they were always had breasts out.
Yeah, right, okay.
But nowadays everything's
PC, politically correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just some good old-fashioned fun killing of people across the universe.
Yeah.
Can we move on to the other side of it now? Is that it, or any more to talk about?
You forgot one human faction.
Oh, what's that?
The ones that follow the Omissar.
I don't know what that is.
The Mechanicum.
Adeptus Mechanicus.
Right.
Yeah.
And they are all from Mars.
Oh.
And that's where they have these big, what they call, Mars is a forge world, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So it's where it's basically a planet that's turned into a factory.
Cool, I like the idea of that.
And these Adeptus Mechanicus, they're basically humans that have basically given up most of their flesh for robotics.
Ah, right. Yes.
Because the flesh is weak.
Stepping on the other side of it, which is outside of the 40k universe, we come
the
to
Age of Sigmar.
The Age of Sigmar. What's the Age of Sigmar about, April?
Well, it's more about Sigma and his the mortal realms, really. So it's him trying to battle against everybody else and protect the mortal realms.
Right. And what sort of factions do we have in there?
Well, they're more like your fantasy side of things, if you come to think of it. So you've got things like your Night Haunt, which are like ghouls and ghosts and things like that. Then you've got things like your orcs, obviously, your AOS orcs, which are pretty much the same as your 40k orcs, so that's good in a way. You've got... just trying to think now. You've got the... Remind me again, what's it called? I've had a blank.
So you've also got 4 major factions as well,
Yep.
which I guess would probably be the best way of categorizing it. And they come under order, so all of the armies that sort of... They may not get along, but they work together under the banner of order. They enjoy having some sort of structure. Then you've got your armies of chaos, which serve the same chaos gods as Warhammer 40,000. However, they're...
They don't have guns.
No, it's strange because the universes aren't the same, but they share common elements, and they've just copied and pasted the Chaos Gods, which actually works quite well. Then you've got your Death faction, which is, as April was saying, things like your Nighthaunt, which is a ghost army, a couple of others like Vampire Count. Well, they're not called that anymore.
Soul
called
Black
now?
Gravelords.
Yes.
Oh,
Soul
okay.
Black Gravelords. And then you've got the fourth faction, which is Destruction, and that's just anyone who likes to make likes to watch the world burn, really. So your orcs and your goblins and all the fun ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did that not also do Lord of the Rings one or set or something, or am I thinking of a different sort of game?
Games Workshop did Lord of the Rings.
They did. It's completely separate to the 40k and the AOS, so it's completely different. It basically, runs on its own.
Got some beautiful minis though.
Yeah.
And a lot of their terrain sets are really nice.
Very well sculpted.
Yeah. April had to paint up the ruins of Asciliath at one point, and I had to copy her colour scheme because it looks phenomenal.
Thank you.
She's a good painter. Let's start talking about painting, because I guess that's the real big sort of fun part of it. There's not so much assembly unless you buy like the tanks and or the aircraft and that sort of stuff.
Well, even the figures are assembly.
Well, yes. Well, that's true too. Yes, but not as much.
And the good thing about the figures is when you buy a box set, there's so many different options you can do.
Not on all of them.
No.
No, some of them are fixed pose. Others are optional. But a lot of the older kits, you don't have too much variation.
No.
But the newer kits, though, like for example, if you talk about the Space Marines, you get a bit more sort of freedom now about moving the arms and adding or not having armor on or different weapons and stuff on.
Yeah, you do.
So the painting, I mean, if you go on YouTube, there is just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of YouTube tutorials on how to paint, your 40k figures or your Age of Sigma. AOS, thank you. Your AOS stuff. Both of you predominantly do brush painting, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, when's your tutorial coming out, Dave?
Well, I can't brush for love nor money, so I tend to use the airbrush, and I successfully use the airbrush, so why would I want to go back? Actually, I should go back and use that brush because I need to know how to do skin tones and stuff like that, so you can only really get that with brush painting and blending. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. So yeah, mainly brush painting, and if you've got young kids sort of starting out as a in the hobby, it's not such a bad idea when you think about it that they're doing brush painting. So if you go to a Games Workshop shop or store, has that for a better term, it's like the one-stop shop. So you can buy the kit, you can buy the paint, you can buy the brushes. The beauty about the paint is it's water soluble. Soluble, thank you.
And it's safe.
Yes, exactly right. So
non-toxic.
Non-toxic, so it hasn't got any of those nasty smells or whatever. And so for kids starting out, it's really, really, really super easy.
Yep.
And the other thing about Games Workshop, God, I'm going to sound like I'm an advertisement for them now, is that they have in-store people who will sit down and actually teach you how to paint, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Which is really, really cool. So a young kid can come along, not even look at a YouTube, and learn how to paint from the get-go, and they're off and running.
I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but April worked in the hobby space for a decent amount of time now.
Oh, yeah, I was aware of that.
Okay. Is it easy teaching young ones in stores how to paint?
For me, yes, I enjoy it very thoroughly, but you definitely do get a whole lot of different kids come through wanting to learn how to do different things, so it's really just adapting how they want to paint to using the techniques and just basically starting out with your basing and then moving on to the next step and then doing it at their own pace, which is what you want to do. You don't ever want to rush someone, with their painting, because otherwise they just don't retain the information and they don't enjoy it.
And it takes the fun out of it and they don't do it again.
The first Orcs Dad bought me, I absolutely ruined.
Well, that's all right. You're allowed to do that.
Yeah, we didn't have an airbrush, did we?
No, we didn't have an airbrush. So when you get the young kids coming in and they're being taught, have they got the patience to sit there and learn and actually go through it and do it properly?
Some of them do, yeah. You'll be very surprised at what, we get all different ages and all that sort of stuff coming through. Some kids as young as 5 and 6 can sit there for hours painting one single model. They might not necessarily follow the exact steps that that we need them to do, or that is needed to be done per se, but if you give them a paintbrush and a bit of paint, show them how to mix the paints together, they can sit there for hours and they're occupied, which is really good. But some kids it really just depends. Some of them be like, yep, okay, I'm done. Next one, yep, I'm done.
Just dunk them straight into the pot. He's all done.
It just depends, and that's you kind of have to go with it. Because, I mean, that's how people, even kids, that's how they enjoy it. Like, you can't just say, no, we have to do it like this, this, and be pedantic about it. It's, you just got to, okay, this is how I have fun. All right, let's make it work.
Yep. But the thing that really attracts me is about the whole thing. It's doing two things. Number one, it's getting kids excited about models like Ian and I when we grew up in the 70s. I mean, that was it. That was our entertainment.
Go down to the corner store, buy a little Airfix aeroplane in a bag and with a tube of Airfix glue, and by the end of the afternoon, you've got a blob of glue and plastic.
And at the same time, also, it's teaching the kids, basic brush skills, which Ian and I have sort of, our skills have atrophied. Well, mine certainly have.
No, mine hasn't. I'm still...
All right, going smarty pants. And I can't count on my hand the amount of times I reach for a paintbrush now. It's very rarely.
Oh, always. Even with standard kits, I'm still.
But it's a good base skill to have.
Yeah.
If you're going to continue modelling or any modelling, it's always a good skill to have because you can use it any time. I mean, airbrush is great, but a paintbrush is just as good in skilled hands, and you can get into more detail with a paintbrush.
Absolutely.
Arguably, than you can potentially do with an airbrush.
Correct.
Especially
on minis and stuff like that.
Especially if the kit you've got doesn't have the decals that you need.
Yes.
What? Yes. Now because on some of your minis, is that the right word?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. You've got like scroll work and stuff like that, and you guys, I've seen you actually do the writing.
No, don't talk to me about the miniature writing. This one over here.
She
could write the Bible for a mouse.
His wife of 2 weeks. He's saying this one over here.
She could write the Bible for a mouse, and there wouldn't be a drop of lettering. I can't do it that fine.
It's actually one of the favourite things to do with scroll work.
What's the trick to it?
Water down paint and paint on the tip of your brush and a very straight brush.
Yep. Don't overload your brush either.
No.
Only put paint on the very end of your brush.
Yep.
Because the worst thing a lot of people do is they get the whole brush and they get the paint in there, and of course as soon as you touch something it's just going to draw straight onto what you're painting, and that's how you get these. It goes a lot larger than you want.
It goes blobby.
Yep.
Dude, have you seen my handwriting?
Yeah. Mate, doctors and pharmacists can't understand your handwriting, Dave.
There's no way I could go on and do that sort of brushwork that you do, April, with that sort of scroll work, because I'm a lousy writer as it is to begin with, and then to translate that down the end of a little paintbrush at whatever scale we're working at, 1/60th scale, I think the Warhammer's been...
I'm not too sure what scale it is.
Yeah. It's about 1/60th, though, I was saying. I think I was reading somewhere it said 1/60th anyway.
Yeah.
But there's no way I could do that sort of scroll work. But I've got somebody I can send the models across to. You can do the scroll work for me.
Good on you.
Yeah, if you want.
Pity you guys live on the other side of the country.
Yes.
Such a shame.
Yes.
I find building 40k stuff a great palette cleanser from normal modelling, because you can just slap it together, have a lot of fun, and there's no sort of rules to it. And there's so many different factions and different colours and paints that you can sort of choose for whatever, let's say Space Marine, whatever chapter, is that the right word?
Yes.
Of a Space Marine is, you can go to town. There's no sort of real hard and fast rules that we can and can't do.
And off the chapters, and you got your sub-chapters and your first and second foundings, and
you notice as well in the more recent stuff, GW has started moving away from exact recipes in their guides, so they're leaving it more open to interpretation, so that people don't feel dejected. And, and young ones can just pick up a brush and go, well, I want it to be this colour. Let's make it this colour, which is amazing for the onset of brand new chapters being created, sub chapters. But if you're like me and you need the instructions, so you have no idea what you're doing.
Because I find some of the sub chapters a lot more fascinating than the base. 10 chapters. There was 12, but 2 got taken out early, wasn't it? I think going off the law.
We don't talk about them, Ian.
We don't talk about those 2. We don't talk about the 2 chapters.
I have a theory.
Okay.
So the orcs are a very interesting race because not only do they have
they're soccer hooligans.
They're absolutely
they are.
amazing.
They're soccer hooligans.
But they have a collective belief structure, and their collective belief alters reality. Yes. It's almost like the stupid psychic energy of the orcs all believing one thing makes that one thing happen.
Correct.
Right.
So they believe that the colour red makes things go faster. So they paint things red.
Was it the colour purple makes you invisible?
Exactly. Yes. I reckon one of the legions didn't disappear and was wiped out of all history. I think they're in purple and the orcs just don't know they exist. and no one else knows they exist.
The beauty about, I was talking about palette cleansers before, and the wonderful thing is because the models aren't that complicated. They're, for example, we had a little group build here at home on Monday, and built, what did we build?
Rhinos.
Yeah.
Armoured personnel carriers.
Yeah. And it's all of 2 sprues and just, cut, slap it together, a bit of sanding and bang, ready to go. Although April chose the more complicated Castigator, yes. Actually reminds me, you just triggered my memory. Where did the Sisters of Battle come in and what are they?
So the Sisters of Battle, I basically call them nuns with guns, but...
And they all look like Deborah Harry.
But they're basically, so they serve the Emperor, and their main goal is to ensure that everyone and anyone who serves the Emperor also, so, everyone else that kind of gets forgotten about is looked after, and they fight alongside Space Marines. So they're basically human, unlike your Space Marines that are human. Altered humanoids, you can really say.
10 foot tall.
Yeah. And they basically, fight alongside them.
They're actually a very interesting faction because the Emperor, who's referred to as the God Emperor...
I thought he was just called Wayne.
Just Wayne?
Yeah, Wayne. I was calling Wayne.
What book's that from?
I don't know. I just call him Wayne. Because he's got to have a name somewhere.
Call him Bruce. Hey, Bruce.
Bruce or Wayne.
He's not a huge fan of the idea of religion or being seen as a god.
Oh, no. Totally agree with you there.
Yeah.
After reading the Horus Heresy novels, I totally agree. That was the one thing he tried to stamp out from the beginning was religion.
Which, interestingly, he became.
Yes.
He became a god. So while he's sitting on his golden throne, rotting away and helping all of mankind, essentially, from that position.
Which I don't know how he's exactly doing that, but he's doing it somehow.
He's like a dowel. He's a dowel holding 2 bits of wood together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Sisters of Battle, they're the armed militant wing of the ecclesiarchy, the church that's been set up in his name, and they have their own collective orc psychic belief that makes things happen. They believe so strongly in the Emperor that miracles happen on the battlefield. You get some very cool game mechanics with that too. Faith dice.
Faith dice.
Yes, sir.
Well, speaking of faith, that sounds like a very good time to take a quick break so we can have a listen from our sponsor, SMS Paints, and we'll be back very, very shortly.
Hi, I'm Scott, the creator and owner of the Scale Modeler Supply, Australia's largest manufacturer of hobby paints. Our premium airbrush-ready acrylic lacquer paints are designed specifically for use on plastics, with a comprehensive range covering all popular modelling subjects including military, aircraft, rail, auto, sci-fi and more. And not only that, but we also have a wide selection of essential hobby tools and now, Infinite Colour, our new range of water-based paints for miniatures. So to check out our range and to find your closest retailer, please visit our website at scalemodeler.com.au. So when quality matters, choose SMS Paints.
And we're back after that short break to continue in a very interesting discussion where we're talking about Sisters of Battle. But that, during the break there, it sort of reminded me about another question. Is there any sort of factions that used to exist that are no longer produced by Games Workshop?
Well, the game of Age of Sigmar itself is the next carnation of what was essentially Warhammer Fantasy.
Yep.
So the old world, as it were, ended and was sort of torn asunder. And some of those species and races survived in one way or another. Others were put back together again. And what you've got now is Age of Sigmar, which takes place over multiple different dimensional realms, each one existing of or founded by a specific type of magic. But that being said, Games Workshop has been teasing the re-release of the old world. So a number of the teams and factions that were removed when Age of Sigmar took over are going to be brought back. So Tomb Kings would have been one that a number of people are familiar with.
They got rid of the Tomb Kings.
Well,
one of the really cool looking ones too. The Tomb Kings.
They were.
Yeah.
Some great models, but that means they're coming back though. So you've got to be happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested in anything sort of life beyond once you actually purchase and sort of build the kit. So, is there like major sort of tournaments that happen at state level or even national level where you can go and sort of have like big wargaming competitions, or because I don't know anything about that side
Games
of it.
Day.
Yeah. Is there?
Do they still have that here? Games Day?
Well, I'm not so sure about Games Day, but over on the other side of the country, right? Well, we do have big like competitions and things like that, which come with their own set of rules and stuff. So, to be honest, I think you can compete at a state level, and you can go further if you wish, to the extent of what they are or where they're hosted or anything like that. That I'm not sure of.
The Warhammer Open. There's a
No.
big old multinational Warhammer tournament. Is it multinational? I don't know, but they do it in Vegas, don't they?
I don't know. You're telling the story.
I remember
I've
going.
never been
I remember going to a Games Day in New South Wales.
Yeah.
Probably about 10, 15 years ago, and that was amazing. And I wasn't much of a player then. I just went there just to have a look, and
Yeah.
they had like 20 or 30 tables set up, and they
Just Warhammer itself.
just for 40K in standard Warhammer. Then they had they were selling everything you could think of. Forge World was there selling stuff, and you know what I'm like. I went in there with a fat wallet and left with an empty wallet.
So you've just piqued my interest. You said Forge World. What's Forge World?
Forge World's like an offshoot that's they did all the. I don't know if they're still doing it that much because I haven't done it for many years, but they did like lots of resin.
They still do resin
Stuff that you just was not available in the plastic range from Games Workshop.
Not worth mass producing.
Yeah, large Titan, which are Titans are basically like giant mechas.
Right,
that
okay.
got a crew inside.
The size of a toddler on the table.
yeah, basically, you're like putting a 1-year-old on the table and say, yeah, kid, go crazy. But I found lately that a lot of the stuff I bought Forge World back then in the early 90s has now been released in plastic. Like when I done it was when the Tau first came as a were brand new, and all piranhas and all different sorts of ships and stuff I purchased, and now they're all available. I've sold them all off now because I just hadn't played it for so long, and like I had like aircraft and hover tanks and all sorts of stuff, and just sold it off in one big hit to a fella.
So, just a general question to everybody. So, obviously, they have big gaming sort of competitions and stuff like that. And I know within the Games Workshop shops themselves, they have like a competition within the shop for like best looking or best build or whatever. Is that taken to a higher level at anywhere around the country? Like, is there a sort of region or sort of state competition for showing off your builds?
Well, I can only speak for WA, right? But they do a competition called Best in the West, which is, as far as I'm aware, all Warhammer shops they'll put in their own entries from people, obviously, their local shops and who participate, in those areas, and then they'll get judged as a whole. Mm-hmm. Each store as far as what I've been told by people who do go to Warhammer. So some stores do different things. So some people do their own little competitions within store. Some of them don't, but Best in the West is the major painting comp as such for WA. So that's where all of the Warhammers or game workshops will put in their own entries from their particular areas and get judged that way.
Cool.
What I hope for is you end up going to England and going to the Golden Demon Awards. That's like at the echelon of figure painting.
So is the Golden Demon 40k stuff, or is that something
40k
else?
and the original?
Right. Okay. Actually, I think I've seen some stuff on Instagram for some of the painting of the.
Yeah, I remember some guy years ago did. I think it was inspired from the movie World War Z, where you got the guys in the helicopters to the big pyramid of zombies.
Yeah.
But he's done that with I think it was the red guys, Blood Angels and Tyranids.
Yep.
And this guy won a Golden Demon Award for it. And when you look at this diorama he's made, it's just mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. Like this, like over, I think he said something like 130 odd Tyranids. And in between you can see like bits of Space Marines trying to crawl out of this massive, writhing mass of just xenomorphs.
Yeah, I know it's heresy for those who aren't a huge fan of the spin-offs, but the Alien vs Predator movies, there's that one scene where it's a flashback in time to an ancient Mesoamerican temple.
Yeah. That's when they're down in Antarctica.
One predator on top, and the entire thing is just a writhing mass of xenomorphs.
Yes.
That's the kind of thing I like to see at those paint competitions.
Yeah.
It's perhaps one of the worst Alien vs Predator movies ever to come out.
Really? I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty
I thought it was
good.
great. Don't mind bad movies.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not saying it's one of their best ones, but yeah.
Just jumping on what April was saying earlier about the Best in the West competition in WA. I've entered, and I've not done well. Not the best painter, but, I'm getting there.
Learning. Yeah, it's all learning.
Yeah, exactly. I was pretty happy with my freehand. The bloke that we had come to our wedding as an Auslan interpreter, he entered Best in the West in our local store a few times. And he did a fantastic set of plague marines, but they were covered in mushrooms. They were like Last of Us myconid plague marines. They looked amazing.
Yeah.
And I said, we've got to get this guy come to our wedding and interpret. And it didn't take much to get Oprah to say yes to that. And my plan was to sit down with him for half an hour and just bend his ear and get some tips. I said 2 words to each person. I didn't get a chance.
No, you don't.
Wasted an opportunity.
While you guys been yakking, I've brought up Golden Demon and just showed the winners of 2023. And this is what I really love about Warhammer. It's not so much, I'm not really particularly interested in the games or playing the games itself, but just the art that you can sort of do and the beautiful models that people are able to paint up. It's just actually sensational. And I'd only dream of being this level. I mean, given that these guys sort of just brush paint, it's just staggering at how much detail and
tonal variations.
Yeah.
You can see the brush strokes imitating fabric as well, which is really nice.
Yes.
Yeah, that textured appeal. Pick up a brush, Dave.
Well, yeah, I know. I should. Look, I want to learn how to do figures because I can't do figures. And, I want to do skin tones because I don't know how to do skin tones. So I've got to... I think I need to get on a plane and come over and spend a couple of days in Western Australia and be tutored by April as to how to do it.
Absolutely.
Do you guys, when you do skin tones?
Not as good as her.
What about you, April? Do you double dip?
Beg your pardon?
Double dip when you're painting. Basically what you do is you get a darker colour, skin colour. You put about half a brush worth of paint, and then you get the lighter colour, and you just very lightly dip the very tip of the brush in a lighter colour. So when you're painting, the paint itself feathers out and gives you that tonal variation. So you're actually painting with 2 different colours on the one brush.
Huh.
I would argue that's called wet blending.
Wet blending, yeah. But no, that's wet blending is when you're blending it on the palette. This is actually just putting it on the paintbrush.
You can blend it on the palette, but have separate variations on the palette, and the brush can pick them all up at the same time.
Correct, yeah.
I've done that, but not very well.
It takes a bit.
Yeah.
I do that, but on the actual model. So I've got to do it like within 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's very quick, isn't it?
Yeah, and you've got to get like once you do your base layer and then you do your shade over the top to go into recesses, it's basically like painting contours and shadows and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
The last time I tried wet blending, I couldn't figure out why it was drying out so quickly. And there I am about 5 minutes later, the light bulb above my head. I'm leaning over the heater right in front of the minis.
Yes.
Well,
one thing I always
hard.
do when I'm doing especially faces is I use retarder. Put a drop of retarder in me paint, and it stops it drying off too quick.
Is that just like a
blending
medium? Or?
Yeah, it's just a medium.
Yeah, okay.
And you can buy it through AK or Vallejo. And it's just a handy thing, just one drop of it, and it just gives you an extra few minutes
Bit of life to it, yeah.
to the paint before it starts drying off.
I find if you add a little bit of water, like do a 2-to-1 ratio, that tends to work pretty good as well.
Yep.
Well, that's how I do
Save
it.
yourself some money that way too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very true.
Well,
considering I also just saw the crate of paints you guys bought with you. That's the only way to describe it, is a crate.
It was two tote boxes full of
Yeah.
paint.
Yeah, we actually...
Hundreds of paints.
We bought a caravan to save on money from luggage on the planes. Just drove it all down instead.
Good idea.
I've just found a model that I really want to buy. I don't know whether it's available in Australia or not. The
would be.
Crassus Armoured Assault Transport for the...
That could be a Forge World. Could be.
I don't know. I'm going to have a look and see if I can
But
get hold
I
of it.
have seen those, and they are quite large, and inside I think you can fit about 40 figures inside them.
I'll have to have a look for them. They're very cool.
Yeah, they do seem... That one that I've never done, but I've always liked the way people do, is they do the false metal colours.
Oh, non-metallic?
Non-metallic metallics.
Yeah.
That's a skill and a half.
That
that's for
is
sure.
incredible to see.
Dave's got a good example on screen now.
So when you say the non-metallic, so you're using any other colour other than metallics to represent like
Metallic.
a sword or...
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I haven't... I've tried it a few times and failed miserably. That's a skill I'd like to pick up on.
Yeah, the layers almost need to be as thin as glazing at certain points. And I just don't have that patience in me at the moment. I'll sit down with it for my next competition model, but I'd be hard pressed to get it right first time.
I can't do a figure without using at least a bit of glazing on it.
Yeah.
It's just a habit I've picked up years ago.
So for everybody listening, what's glazing?
Well, glazing is basically thinning your paint out so it's basically translucent, very watered down, and basically all you're doing is just putting a thin coat of glaze, and it's, to the naked eye, sometimes you don't, as you're putting it on, you don't notice it, but when it dries, it slightly changes the tonal variation of your colour.
Yeah, it's just a 13 to 16 coat sometimes.
Yeah, and basically, like if you've got like two colours that are beside each other that slightly contrast each other, when you put the glaze over it, it helps blend them in a bit more, so they're not like jumping out at you the whole time. Well, it's like my motto, where your final clear coat for a model kit, tint your clear. So basically you're doing that with your glazing.
You can do it with medium as well, actually. It works. I've done quite a lot of glazing with my Nighthorn, actually, with medium. It's really good to get that ghosty effect on their shrouds and things like that, where you literally blend like 10 or so colours just on the back of their capes just to get that really blue ghosty effect.
Nice ethereal transition. Yeah.
Do you guys do like a gloss coat or a matte coat out of a rattle can or something to protect your model after you've painted it?
Yes, we do. So it's almost like a bit of a matte finish.
Yep.
But it's so if you're doing anything on your model prior to glossing that has a bit of like a shiny effect, like your glasses and like your goggles and things like that, you do have to go back afterwards to put that the gloss back on it. But if you use what we use Monotorium varnish, which is from the Citadel range, which by far out of everything I've used is one of my favourites. It protects your models from, like, if you drop them, from chipping, scratching, fingerprint marks as well. And especially for wargaming, if you're mucking around with your minis and you're moving them around and stuff like that. It's not like they're display models, right? So
in and out of storage transport boxes all the time.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
many snapped off spindly bits in the bottom of my crate.
Yeah.
Yep.
We want to see little snapped off bits on just in my model shelf. I mean, just sort of sitting there sometimes, bits fall off.
Yes, they do.
And just start using some super glue, Dad.
No. Not a big fan of super glue, but anyway.
Stick your fingers together.
Super glue's good.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. A lot of people don't like it.
Especially if you just spend about $3 and get one of those packets with the really long, thin adapters for your super glue bottle, and they're perfect. You can get like little pin pricks of just super glue everywhere.
Yeah, they're great for holding.
Yeah.
So, what if you're thinking of taking your son, daughter, or grandchild along to the shop? What sort of glue would you recommend they get for the kits there?
So, out of all the glues I've used Tamiya, I've used Citadel, and other different brands from hobby shops and things like that. My favourite is the Citadel. It's not toxic. It doesn't stick to your fingers. And what it does, it bonds the plastic. So when you apply it, it actually melts the plastic together and creates a seal.
Yep.
It doesn't give off too much of a bad smell either.
What's the fun in that?
Yeah, I know.
There's nothing better than having a good glue session at the end of it. You go, ooh, I can see through time, man.
So those kits you used to buy back in the 70s, it was the glue you used first, and you found you had a model
That's
left
right,
over.
yep.
Oh, dear. All right, I think that's a great spot to have another quick break, and we'll be back fairly short. Let me say that again.
Back shortly, Dave.
Thank you very much to bring it all on home.
Hey everyone, it's Chris at Inside the Armour Publications. I'd like to tell you about what I've got going on at ITA pubs right now. First, I've got a huge restock from Tetra models, including the Coyote TSV, Jackal 2 and M1278 Heavy Guns Carrier PE sets. The Akagi PE set for the 1700 Hasegawa kit is back in stock. I've got new stuff coming from Wingsy kits, including a restock of their ever popular BF109s. And also I've still got plenty of copies of Models for Ukraine Volume 2. Please do buy that if you would like to help with humanitarian aid for Ukraine. In addition, I've also got the F4, 148 and 172nd decal sets for 13th TFS at Udon Air Force Base in the late 60s, which are fantastic for your 172nd or 148 Phantoms. So head on over to InsideTheArmour.com or check out ITA discounts on eBay to find out more about these great products and how you can get your hands on them.
Okay, we're back again to continue the conversation and bring it on home. And as we were doing that, we were shooting through some pictures of the Golden Demon Warhammer Fest 2023 winners. And April remarked that you'd forgotten one.
Yes, I did. So previously, before when I was trying to describe AOS, I forgot the name of Stormcaster Turtles.
Right.
Which serve Sigma.
Yes, a lot of people affectionately call them the Sigmarines because they are the poster boy, like the Ultramarines of the,
right, yes,
of the Age of Sigmar world.
Yes.
And you know they get a lot of flack, but I'm a collector. I collect Stormcaster Turtles and I play them too.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of variation within the army.
Are these the Stormcaster dudes here?
No, those are the ghosts.
Who are these dudes?
They're the Stormcasters.
Right,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Kind of looked like a cross between a Roman centurion and a space marine.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, kind of.
a little bit.
Or maybe a Knight Templar and a space marine. How's that? Yeah, that's nice.
Sure.
Yep. There we go. So, do you see? I mean, I oh my God, that's a beautiful. Sorry, we're looking at the pictures from Golden Demon and just brought up some fantastic artwork. Do you see a lot of parents sort of coming into because you guys are in and out the shops all the time, whereas I'm not. So when you guys are in there sort of shopping at different shops, you see a lot of parents that are bringing their kids in and that sort of stuff?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of kids come in, all different ages. Some of them are a little bit more boisterous than others. But, yeah, we've got parents coming in and out, and even just, doing my own shopping, you see, parents bringing their kids in all the time, and they absolutely love it.
They just drop them off as daycare.
Yeah, sometimes they do, but basically they're sitting there, eyes open, jaw to the floor, and they're just trying to take everything in, but it's almost like they can't.
Yeah.
Shelves taller than them.
And for anyone who's interested in possibly going down and getting their children interested in this hobby, which is a great hobby, by the way.
Yeah, 100%.
Kids off the streets.
Yep.
All their money is going to this, so it's not going to other nefarious things.
Yep.
Their money and their children's money.
I know that the Warhammer shops, GW, they do like a free introductory model and a paint session for kids. So it's the same business plan that a lot of people on street corners have. They give the first hit for free.
Get them hooked.
Yeah, but it works. It's good, and it awakens a lot of creativity in kids too, which is something I think is dying out these days a bit.
Yeah. Well, the kids nowadays just mainly into their video games.
Well, anything to get distract them from the screens. I think in my books is a good thing. Is there an equal sort of number of girls and boys, young girls and young boys, or is it still sort of mainly boys, or are you seeing good different sort of numbers?
I'm seeing a pretty decent variation of both, to be completely honest. I don't think, it's not just a boys' hobby, it's not just a girls' hobby, I should say. I see so many, different kids come in all the time, even in my own shopping as well. There's always girls interested in, the boys' stuff and all of that. So I think it's pretty, pretty equal.
Oh, that's really cool to hear.
The hobby's got two main sides, really. You've got the playing and then the building, collecting, and painting side.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the majority, this isn't a hard set rule, but the majority of people playing competitively tend to be men.
Okay.
All the blokes.
Whereas some of the best painters are women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really nice stuff coming out. Anyone in this day and age who's even got a lick of talent has an Instagram account, and some of the models they're coming out are just phenomenal.
There's even some people who you can subcontract to paint your kit, your armies, can't you? Yeah. God,
You want to have deep pockets for that.
Well, not just that. I mean, as the person doing it, you want to really sort of enjoy and love it, because it become a real grind after a while painting an army.
Especially like you're doing Space Marines and like you're doing I don't know, something like the Iron Fists. Iron Fists. And he's going to be going through so much yellow paint, and as we all know, yellow and red are crap colours to paint.
Yeah,
depends your technique, I think.
White base coat. Speaking of yellow, I just use a white base coat with yellow. Works well.
What do you think, April?
Well, I've got a decent recipe or two up my sleeve.
Oh, come on, you get to share.
Well, I use a Citadel range, right? Yep. So if I'm ever painting white, because white scar's got quite a lot of pigment to it, so you need to make sure you put a decent base coat underneath. Otherwise, you're going to get a bit of transparency, right?
Yep.
So I use 2 layers of Corax white, and I thin it down with Lamia medium. Not too thin, obviously, but thin enough, so it's like 2-to-1 ratio. Do 2 coats of that, and then you would get a decent enough coverage. But Corax white's got a little bit of a grey undertone to it, so you put white scar, if you're using Citadel range or anything equivalent, on top, and that just gives it, like, you don't have any transparency, nothing at all.
So we're at home, and I go, "Hun, can you help me with my white model?" And she goes, "No, you'll be fine."
I don't
understand why mine don't look as good as yours.
You gotta learn.
Yeah. I'm not paying enough attention.
So do you guys do prime all in black for every model you do, or
no? Actually, we So for me, it depends what colours you're going to put on top, right? Because if you're painting white, if you do a black primer, you're going to have to apply more layers on top. And obviously, if you put too many layers of the one paint on top, you cloud your detailing and all that sort of stuff. So you'd want to go, depending on what range you're using and what sort of paint or, what brand you gravitate towards as well. You want to try and stick to something that is as closest to the main colour group that you're going to stick to your model. That's if you're doing miniature models. So if you're doing something like the orcs, you'd probably want to stick to white, because white kind of gives, if you're doing a green orc, right, white will make the green stand out far more better than the black. The black will, because you've got to do that many layers, it will make your green look a little bit dull. So that's generally my theory.
Right. And when you do your priming of your, is it generally out of a rattle can
Yes.
rather than paintbrush?
We've tried airbrush priming before, but I do not have the skill set that you do.
Oh, thank you.
Dave finally had a win.
Well, let it be known that the equipment that I've got at home is all Dad's hand-me-down stuff, so it's probably there.
I saw something interesting. Speaking about colours, the other day I was watching on YouTube a guy doing miniature painting, and he was painting yellow, but he was doing the zenithal highlight, and we all know zenithal highlights where you get a dark colour and then you blow a light colour on the top of it that gives you your highlights and your deep crevices.
Okay.
What he did after he done his zenithal, he put his white down, is he flipped it upside down and painted purple.
Yes.
And you think purple on yellow until he put the yellow down and it just clicked.
Huh.
It was something that just blew. It was like, he's using purple. And I think, no, this is going to... And then he put the yellow and it blew my mind. It was like, wow.
Yeah, it's like that light and dark colour shadow sort of thing, isn't it? It works really well.
When you say he flipped it upside down, so
he flipped the miniature upside down. So
Right.
all the dark areas, so the opposite to the zenithal,
Yep.
he painted purple.
Wow.
Before he put his yellow, flipped it back over and put the yellow on.
Huh.
And it was amazing.
There's a
And that's the thing is, what I've been learning lately, for the past few years, is don't be afraid to throw different colours in there.
Yeah.
Especially like if you're doing your glazes, like for skin tones, don't be afraid to throw red in there. Don't be afraid to throw blue in there. Don't be afraid to throw purple in there.
Yep.
Because once it gets on there, it blends together and it gives you such a more natural look.
Very cool.
There's a method that's pretty popular at the moment called slap chop. Have you guys heard of this?
No.
So it's more or less taking the idea of zenithal. You'll have a dark base color, then you'll take a lighter or a darker grey on top of that, and you'll just dry brush it over the top. And then you'll take an even lighter grey, dry brush that over, then a whitish color, and you'll dry brush that over, just getting the small highlight ridges. And then you'll just do a like a contrast or a wash or something to get your main color on, and you've got your transition colors all there already.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that last colour is the colour that just blends it all together. Yeah.
And it really works well for those who don't want to spend 7 hours painting a single mini. If you just want to get a whole unit of soldiers or something ready to go, it's a good way of doing it. Looks pretty good.
Because I reckon after a while you'd probably suffer burnout if you're like doing like a 120 odd Space Marines.
Yeah.
After you've done 60, you're going to be pretty sick of doing that one colour all the time.
Well, that's why perhaps you're having the posing army as well. So if you get bored, you switch to them.
Yeah. That's it.
Did I ever tell you the story of how we got back into modelling?
No, you didn't.
So payday is about 4 or 5 days away. We're out of money.
Yep.
I'm going down shopping to get some food, just, a small amount. And I stumble into the local Warhammer shop, as you do. And I remember to myself, I've got a box of Hormigans, some Tyranids with little blade hands.
Yes.
Sitting at home that I bought in 2011 and never touched them. And I start looking at all the paints I need for it, and I'm like, okay, I need this paint, that paint, this paint, that paint. And the whole total is $93. And I don't really have $93 to spend. I had like $100 in my account at the time, and I had to buy food. So I get on the horn to the missus, and I've gone, hey, hon. Hey, yeah, just out shopping. Question, can I buy some paints? And she's like, yeah, why would I care? Like,
this is before April started painting.
This is before she had any introduction to the hobby. And I've gone, yeah, cool, not a problem. I'm just going to buy a couple. She's like, okay, sure. And right as I'm about to hang up with the gold, with the green light, she goes, how much is it going to cost you?
Boom, boom.
And I've gone, oh, it's not many paints, just a handful of paints. She's like, okay, how much? $93? She's gone, what? You're not spending $93 on a couple little pots of paint. And I go, no, it's a good cause. I'll get you to come down this afternoon after work, and you can come have a look. So I dragged her into the store, and I'm doing that thing where I'm pointing out every single box, going, look how amazing that one looks. Look how amazing that one looks. See, the paints are worth it. I did not paint them box quality, I tell you. But from that moment forward, you were pretty keen to move forward with the hobby, weren't you?
Yeah, I was actually. I saw first time I've ever walked into any sort of hobby shop like ever in my life. I walked in and literally to this day, I'm like straight to the Night Haunt section, straight to AOS, Lady O or Lady Olinda. And pretty much every other time I've come in after that, I've just been staring at her. And I'm like, I really want to do this. I really want to do this. Now she's tattooed on my arm.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
April's got a sick Warhammer tribute tattoo on her forearm. One side is the Night Haunt General Lady Olinda, who is a very interesting character.
Lady of Sorrows.
Yes. And on the other side, she's got a Sister Hospitaller from the Sisters of Battle with a little cherub, one of those little naked babies with wings and
those
cybernetic
things
enhancements.
freak me out, man. Seriously.
I think they're cool.
See,
Undead babies with wings? Nah.
That's devotion. I mean, it makes me want to go get a Tamiya tattoo now.
Tamiya tattoo. On your forehead.
I reckon an SMS on your arm like the old Spartan.
Oh, you hear that,
tattoos
Scott
look
Taylor?
alright.
SMS tattoo? That's not a bad idea. I wonder how much I can rent my arm out for.
That's it.
All right, guys, let's bring it home. So any final things you want to raise or let people know about?
Yeah.
Thin your paints. Sorry, I just had to say that.
No, nice.
I think that's pretty obvious.
It needs to be said, though.
It does.
Yep. I just wanted to just quickly do a shout out to Dave. Say thank you so much for everything you've done for me. You're by far the best Dave I've ever known in my entire life.
Oh, thank you.
And
Someone has to say it.
to think you live all the way in Kentucky. We've never met, but you've done so much for me.
Boom, boom, boom. Good burn.
No, all jokes aside, Kentucky Dave helped me out of a bind.
Yep.
So yeah, shout out to him. Hope you're enjoying your drinks and your modelling in the afternoons.
Well, I actually spoke to Kentucky Dave last night, and he just said to say good day to you as well. So
they're on their way to
they're on their way to San Antonio. Well, in fact, they'll be there now.
Yes, San Marcos,
I should say, for the IPMS Nationals in the US at the moment, which I'm going to drag you two kids over to go there one day because it is awesome.
It is freaking amazing, guys.
I'm
Seriously.
considering just jumping on board your little Adelaide trip.
Oh, yeah. Well,
What's that? Yeah, why not?
that's
Canberra?
in end of October or Canberra.
Canberra's
Canberra's a bit too far, maybe,
Canberra's
for
awesome.
a drive.
Yeah, Canberra's awesome.
Canberra's going to be an awesome show.
Yeah.
Adelaide's too far for a drive. It's like 37 hours on the road for me.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks very much for dropping in and partaking in doing an episode, Nate and April. We really appreciate you sort of coming and doing this. Just as a reminder to all of our usual sort of modelers out there, if you've got a grandchild, niece, nephew, or even son or daughter, just drag them down to a shop and just walk them through and see if it sort of strikes any interest.
Yep.
And it's the next generation of modelers coming through, so we need to
That's it.
really sort of foster and germinate that.
Yes, read that gateway drug.
That's new kids.
Some plastic crack doesn't go wrong.
That's it.
Plastic crack doesn't go wrong. All right, guys, thanks very much for being with us. And this is, as I said, a special episode. We'll be back in a couple of days with our normal episode, in which we've got a special guest coming down from
Looking forward to that.
Canberra to have a chat with us.
It's going to be
So
great.
Should be good. Anyway, I'll see you again soon. Thanks very much, everybody. Catch you later.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.
See you later.
Whether you build aircraft, armour, ships, science fiction, cars or figures, the Fine Scale Modeller magazine provides the how-to information you need to take your modelling to the next level. In each issue of Fine Scale Modeller, you'll find clear how-to features on model assembly and finishing written by experts, reviews of the hottest model kits and products, tips and techniques for assembling, painting and finishing, as well as inspiring photos of readers' models. To find out how you can get your copy of Fine Scale Modeller, go to www.finescale.com.